welcome back to Get Involved Pittsburgh. Thanks again for joining us. I'm very honored to introduce our first guest today on our inaugural show. His name is Dan Horgan, and he's the Executive Director of Pittsburgh Cares, one of the best nonprofits. I'm pretty biased, but he's one of definitely the best executive directors of a great nonprofit here in the region. So thanks to Dan. Congratulations on being our first guest ever on Get Involved Pittsburgh.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for being here today. If you wouldn't mind telling and sharing with our viewers a little bit about Pittsburgh Cares, the story of how it all came about.
Sure. So Pittsburgh Cares is a nonprofit here in Pittsburgh that was started back in 1992 by a group of 6 friends who, most of which weren't from Pittsburgh. They moved here and they wanted to get other young professionals involved, all of which who had busy schedules and were going in a million different directions. And so they created an online calendar that just featured lots of different volunteer opportunities all throughout town that individuals could go online and register for. And it has since grown over the past 17 years to an organization that has 4 distinct programs, working with lots of different individuals from all different backgrounds, getting them connected to civic engagement opportunities.
That's great. And what's the big impact that Pittsburgh Cares is making in the community today? Are there quantifiables that you could share with our audience?
Absolutely. So at this point, we have over 5,000 youth and adult volunteers engaged in support of over 250 different nonprofit organizations throughout the region. And so that means that they're actively involved over the course of a 12-month year, and they're connecting either through our calendar or through customized projects that we coordinate for their business, for their campus group, or for their school group.
That's great. I kind of embarrassed both of us in the intro by saying that you were a young man. Like I mentioned, we're about both the same age. But you became an executive director of a nonprofit at a very young age. If you wouldn't mind kind of sharing your journey, your professional journey, and how I know that you started another organization even right out of high school. So if you could share that with our viewers.
Sure. Well, when I was 18, I started another nonprofit called Allegheny County's Promise, which was the local affiliate to America's Promise. America's Promise was a national movement started by retired General Colin Powell back in 1998. And the whole core mission of that program was to help provide kids with 5 fundamental resources to really make sure that they grew up in successful ways so that they would ultimately be able to give back to society and have a meaningful path to follow. And so I started that when I was 18, ran it all through college, and then stayed with it for about 3 years after college as well. And so it was definitely a challenge as a young professional getting involved, but it was also a great opportunity where a lot of people said it was impossible.
Right.
And
yeah, I talk a little bit in my speeches about the idea of failing forward, and sometimes we have to put ourselves out there and apply for things and try hard, and sometimes things just don't work out, but in the end it turns out in a positive way.
Absolutely.
Were there any roadblocks in the beginning as you were starting a nonprofit at a young age?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people's response when I would go to ask for help would be like, oh, why don't you find a mentor to help you or another organization to link up with in order to help get this off the ground? And I had actually not known this at the time, but it was actually tried here in Pittsburgh about a year before I started getting it off the ground. And so I tried to reconvene some of the planning team that was around at that point, and most of them said, we've tried it, it's not going to happen. And so it was really exciting to be able to take that sort of negativity and to change it around into a positive and show people that young people, particularly college students and high school students, could create this movement. And what was really cool about it was we became the first national model that was youth-led for America's Promise at the national level. That's
great. I know that you're working a bit now with young people through the Young Leaders Academy. And we had I had the privilege of working with you a couple summers in a row on the teen leadership program out in Monroeville, and that's built into a large program that you have now throughout the whole region. If you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about PILA and what you're doing with that.
Sure. So the Pittsburgh Young Leaders Academy is a program that really works with different school districts or youth organizations in developing leadership development curriculum that's applicable to the organization's mission, but also to inspiring youth to really stand up and take action against change that they want to see in their own communities. And so our largest program right now is with the Pittsburgh Public Schools. We're in 5 different schools where they have the highest dropout rates. And we're working specifically with 9th grade students to really help them to understand that if there's something they don't like in their school or in their community, they don't have to wait till somebody else does something about it, that they themselves can stand up and create some change that they want to see.
And over the course of the week, what are some of the things that they do together and get to try out?
The curriculum is pretty hands-on, so some of the activities that they would do is do some community mapping. So they, in that process, learn about the history. So say you take Oliver High School students. They learn about the history of the North Side and what it was at one point years ago. And then they talk about how maybe some of those challenges that existed back then are similar to what the challenges are today. And sort of what some of the solutions have been over time and how they can start creating new ideas and new strategies for solving some of those community challenges.
That's great. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit because it's something that we worked on together.
Sure.
Is the service crawl still something that Pittsburgh Cares does?
Yep.
And if you wouldn't mind sharing, I think it's just such a neat program, and having participated in it, it's a good thing if anyone ever wanted to work with Pittsburgh Cares on it, or maybe even try to start something up in their own community, like a service crawl.
Yeah, so a service crawl is basically, it's something I modeled after The Amazing Race, and kind of like Oprah's Big Give as well.
Right.
And the whole idea of it is to take young people and anyone who's looking for creative ways to give back in the community and put them into this challenging situation where over the course of 3 or 4 hours, they basically have 10 different challenges. And all of those challenges educate them about social issues in the region, while at the same time engaging them in some capacity. So they might be collecting loose change for the Red Cross. They might be canvassing the East End for a local job fair that's coming up at the Union Project. So there's all these different things that they can do. And what it shows people is that if you don't have time, there's other ways that you can give back. Mm-hmm. If you can't open up your checkbook and write a check to a charity, there's other ways that you can contribute in a meaningful way.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I often say that, if you can't write a $10,000 check to Pittsburgh Cares or Big Brothers Big Sisters, you can give your sweat equity, your time, your talent, your passion, your commitment, and that's what you see, I'm sure, all the time with your Pittsburgh Cares volunteers.
Absolutely.
That's great. I'm just thinking back to when we were doing the service crawl together and literally having parents that were rushing to drop off books and car seats at the teen center so that their kids could win the service crawl. So that's great that it's going well. Quickly, if we could talk about MLK Day and what you do with that. I know that a lot of people have MLK Day off, but very much within Pittsburgh Cares and volunteerism here in the region, that's a day on where people are giving back their efforts.
So every year on Martin Luther King Day, we celebrate the diversity within the region by bringing about 350 to 400 people together, youth and adults from all different backgrounds, and basically they come together to work on a public art project that we've been doing now for about 2 years. And the concept behind it is that they build bookcases using words and images from the civil rights movement. And the idea is that eventually every elementary school in the city of Pittsburgh would have a diversity shelf where a young person can find a book related to their ethnic background. And so that's kind of our campaign that we've been doing.
Yeah.
Our goal is in 5 years to be able to accomplish all of those elementary school classrooms.
That's excellent. And is Pittsburgh Cares still doing Hands-On Pittsburgh?
Yep.
Okay. How's that going?
It's great. It's coming up in 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
So May 1st and May 2nd this year.
And what takes place over the course of Hands-On Pittsburgh?
So it's a Friday and a Saturday event. You can pick either day to participate. And what we do is we recruit volunteer leaders who then go out and recruit volunteers to participate in service projects all across the region. Okay. And so this year we have over 2,000 volunteers at dozens of project sites all across the region, working from environmental concerns to working with kids to working with seniors.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now, if any of our viewers are sitting at home and they work for a big company or a corporation here in the region, and they're thinking, I would love to, partner up with Pittsburgh Cares. How could we work together? Yeah. I know that you work a little bit with some businesses here in the region. How's that worked with your corporate relationships?
It's great. We're up to 146 business clients.
Wow. And do you mind sharing a couple examples of people that are working with Pittsburgh Cares?
Sure. So we partner with Citizens Bank, and it's a really great partnership. So every quarter, Citizens Bank gives a $25,000 grant to a local nonprofit organization. And they've partnered with a local media station to also highlight and do public service announcements for that particular organization. And our role in that sort of threesome is to really bring to the table volunteers and material resources to help support those charities as well. And so that's a great partnership with the company that they can leverage their financial resources, we can leverage people's time and material resources to help address a community need.
It kind of goes along with the Pittsburgh Cares phrase of volunteering made easy.
Yep.
You're trying to make it as easy as possible for these corporations to have their staff members give back. And how do they get involved with Pittsburgh Cares?
Sure. The easiest way is to log on to our website at pittsburghcares.org, and you can check out our calendar. Every month we feature about 50 to 70 service projects that you can get connected to, again, all throughout Allegheny County, all different types of impact areas. And you can also call our office at 412-471-2114, and we'll help connect you however we can to a local service project.
Great. Well, Dan, I want to thank you for being our first guest in the history of Get Involved Pittsburgh. I want to give you a copy of the book as a thanks for being here today.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for all the good work that you're doing at Pittsburgh Cares. For everyone watching at home, please think about getting involved with Dan and helping out with Pittsburgh Cares. There's so much to do for our region. We're very lucky to have people like Dan Horgan that are making a big difference. We'll be back in just a moment. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks.
That's it for Get Involved Pittsburgh. Our first edition will be on in the upcoming months. I hope that you enjoyed the show. Again, my name's Tom Baker. Please get out there and get involved today, Pittsburgh, and make a difference for our city. Thanks a lot.